Today, we are announcing Sun TV News, and we're taking on the mainstream media. We're taking on smug, condescending, often irrelevant journalism. We're taking on political correctness. We will not be a state broadcaster offering boring news by bureaucrats, for elites, and paid for by taxpayers. We will be unapologetically patriotic. We will offer the type of raw debate that Canadians only find today in coffee shops and around the dinner table. Sun News will be controversially Canadian. CBC News Network and CTV News Channel have had respectively 21 years and 13 years to get it right, and they've failed to win over Canadians despite their obvious advantages of incumbency. Canadian TV news today is narrow, it's complacent, and it's politically correct. It's bland and boring, and Canadians, as a result, have largely tuned out. We'll be different. We'll be different from the all-news channels we already have in Canada, offering Canadians an attractive mix of hard news reporting during the day and straight talk opinion journalism at night. It will pull no punches, and it will be factual, fair, and entertaining.
How do you feel being dubbed Fox News North?
Well, our competitors and our critics will throw all kinds of stones to try to label us, to try to have Canadians dismiss this. We're a Canadian company. We're offering Canadian news, Canadian content, Canadian commentary on stories that are happening. So I just dismiss that as our competitors taking a shot.
How do you respond to the criticism this is going to be a divisive network? Don Newman called this the last thing Canada needs.
Well, it is not a surprise that our competitors are not going to be universally pleased about seeing someone new come into the marketplace. I dismiss that as self-serving. I think that there are those who say they won't like it and they're not going to watch it, and this is a democracy, and that's fine. There are others, and I think Mr. Newman was getting into this camp, who are saying, I don't like this, and my neighbors shouldn't be allowed to watch it. I think that crosses a big line. I think that Canadian democracy and Canadian media are well served by having a diversity of voices. I don't think that we should shy away from debate that's real and raw, and frankly, it happens in all other parts of the country, around kitchen tables, in coffee shops. It just doesn't happen on TV, and it should, and we're going to change that.
Does our country really need another all-news channel? Is it more the merrier? Two people who are being described as the angriest men in TV think so. Quebecor President Pierre-Carl Pellado and his Vice President of Development, Kory Teneycke, announced yesterday they're launching an all-news channel. But industry insiders are wondering if this network is really needed, if there's a big enough audience to keep them afloat, and will the coverage be fair and balanced? Kory, as I like to call you, love us and leave us. Kory Teneycke, is this really competition? I mean, we're journalists. We give it voice, fair voice. You're always welcome to come on the show, as you know that. You say you're a conservative, so are you really just one platform? We know where you come from, but it's not real journalism, Kory. It's kind of, you're a propagandist to a certain extent, not a real journalist. That's my question.
Well, it's quite the leading question there, Evan.
No, because you admit that openly. That's
of course, I'm a conservative in the same way that Ivan Fakan, the president of CTV News, is a liberal. He gives tens of thousands, even more money than Frank Graves to the Liberal Party and raises millions.
But he also gives to, but he does give to the Conservatives too, right?
Ivan Fakan raised millions of dollars for Liberals.
He gives to all parties.
Ivan is in broadcasting. He's always been in broadcasting. He may take an interest in politics, and that's his right. But he's a broadcaster. He's not a politician getting into broadcasting to put out a political message, which is essentially what you're doing.
If you're going to do a setup, and let me actually answer the question. There are people who are in journalism who go into politics. There are people who go from politics into the media. Fakan's political. He's liberal. Paul Sparks, executive VP at CTV, used to, like me, be a director in the Prime Minister's office. I don't see any problem with it. I don't think it's an issue. I'm not a journalist. presenting news stories. I'm somebody who is an executive for a media company, and viewers will see what we have to offer, and they'll decide whether they like it or not.
Before I bring in Don, I just want to say, how do we know that you will fairly portray all sides, or is it just going to be to promote a conservative cause?
Well, the biggest problem, I think, with much of what's on on this show and on other shows like it on cable news in Canada, is it's play fighting. Too often, the people who are on actually aren't strong enough. They probably shouldn't be on TV. They're either on talking points or they're filing the edges off the message. That's what makes it boring. What makes it interesting to watch is to have a debate that's lively, that's engaging, that's real, that is often on topics that are not obsessions of the gallery around us here, but a broader range of issues. So I think that's what makes it good.
But
if it's just one perspective, nobody's going to watch.
But it's not all one.
You said it's got to be real or people won't watch. So does that mean you are actually going to have people with different opinions than your conservative commentators, so that, will it be an equal number so that it will be real? Or are you going to have, as basically we see on Fox News, either conservative commentators agreeing with each other, or basically it's like a phone-in show where the audience is the program and they all agree with the commentator and that's why they get on?
Look, Don, it's not interesting television if there isn't debate, if it isn't engaging, if it isn't real. The problem, it's not a question of whether a number of different views are represented on shows like this. They are. It's just they're represented in a boring way. Is this my assessment? No. This is the assessment of people who are not watching. The ratings are very low. Canadian cable news ratings are much lower than they are in the United States.
Well, hold on. But I know Fox does well, and this is the question here. Fox News does incredibly well, and there's no denying it. And Don, you wrote a column saying that the last thing we need is another channel, Fox News North, as it's been called. But why is that? Why not have a more robust debate where, you know, guys like Kory and his channel may be on, and CBC's got a position, and CTV? What is wrong with opening up the spectrum and having more debate?
I think it's wrong and divisive, and that's really what I was talking about in the column, and that is to have channels that basically focus on one opinion. And basically, watching what you and Mr. Palladone were saying in Toronto the other day, that's what you're going to be
prejudice, Don. This is the very definition of prejudice. Without having broadcast a single minute of television, you've already decided what it is and determined a position. That's fine. That's your opinion. You don't have to watch. But I actually think that some division is not a bad thing if it is sparking debate in the country. You know, we're a democracy. Actually having people debate and disagree and
it's
good.
Yeah.
We're trying to get a picture of what the offering is, because, you know, we're trying, you know, the CBC offers a wide spectrum of views, okay? And you're a testament to that.
The truth of the CBC is it gets very low ratings and it gets a huge pile of money from the taxpayer. And for that pile of money, it doesn't get very good results. It gets over $1 billion a year, Evan. That's a lot of money. It's like an annual $1 billion boondoggle that the CBC gets that kind of money.
But why? But Kory, first of all,
to compete, I should add, with private sector television.
Well, often to compete with them.
The $1 billion goes to English, French, radio, TV. It doesn't just go to somehow to Canadian television.
Somehow that makes it okay. I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's okay. Many other Canadians don't think it's okay.
Well, you didn't mind taking it when you were getting paid to come on TV, but anyway, I guess you didn't feel that was didn't bother your conscience. Anyway,
no, it doesn't bother my conscience at all.
But the license that you will have to grant, you know, the license that you will get for your station will also have government money involved in that, or will you take no government subsidies at all for the licensing?
Look, we're not in the business of rent seeking. We're not in the business of handouts from the taxpayers to pay the bills. When you go to a budget lockup, for instance, if we want to talk an Inside Ottawa event, which you've been to 1,000 times, half the journalists in the budget lockup are being paid for by the taxpayers.
But Kory, your channel will get money from the CRTC as well.
No, you get money from
paid subscriber fees that the government regulates.
Subscribe through a private sector cable
fee for carriage stuff that's decided by.
But it's ultimately up to viewers whether they want to subscribe.
This is going, I think, be
the new Sun Media TV operation, referred to in slang, I guess, around here, is Fox News North. It is going to be, as they say on their website and in their opening material today, it is going to be factual news during the day and then entertaining political opinion at night. Sounds a little bit like Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck and the rest. Anyway, Kory, one of the incongruous things to me, though, is that you're running a channel that believes in fundamental conservative values. That's what you're saying. And yet your business model relies on sucking on the public teat. And I'm wondering if you can explain that, because unless you get what's called Tier 1, in other words, every Canadian has got to accept your channel whether they want it or not, which is going to put $65 million into your pocket and that of Pierre Carl Pelado, unless you get this very public socialist subsidy, you're broke. So how do you handle both sides of this?
Well, Tom, that would be a really compelling argument if it were true. Unfortunately, it's not. What we're seeking is a must offer, not a must carry. We're not asking to be a part of basic cable. We're simply requesting for a transitionary period that cable providers have to offer it. We're not saying as what tier of package. We're not saying that it has to be part of basic cable. So we're not looking for a TV tax. We're just simply wanting to have access where viewers can decide themselves whether or not they want to have that as a part of their cable package.